You are about to listen to another episode of That Sports Guys podcast, hosted by Craig Forrestal. Find Craig on Twitter at that_sports_guy. The That Sports Guy podcast is proudly featured by NFL Draft Diamonds, your draft coverage king. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some football talk.
Hello and welcome to another episode of That Sports Guys podcast. I am Craig Forrestal. You may know me from Twitter as at that_sports_guy. And today I have with me Dayton safety Brandon Easterling. Brandon, what's going on?
Hey, Craig, how you doing? I appreciate you having me on. Just got done with a workout, so now's a good time to chill out and chat a bit. So thank you for having me on.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad that I got you while you're in the frame of mind to talk a little ball fresh off of a workout. So before we get into that part, I just want to know what your hometown is like, Fairborn, Ohio. What was it like growing up there?
Yeah, so Fairborn, it's a fairly small town. The sports programs at Fairborn are within my 4 years. We started as Division I, and we were always on the brink of Division I. So we dropped down to Division II. That kind of gives you an idea of the size of the school system in Ohio. But it's a very diverse city. I think I was actually telling one of my buddies today that I remember back in middle school, I had a substitute teacher who had told me that she has been all over the country in different schools. And she said that Fairborn city schools, from her experiences, are one of the most diverse. It's one of the most diverse student bodies she's ever been around. There's very wealthy people, there's very poor people, there's every race you can think of. But it's full of people who are supportive. I can say one thing about me, and it's an ongoing joke on my team. People, always joke about there being a statue in Fairborn and all of this. And the reason being ultimately is because the city is so supportive for me, and not only me, but anybody who, is really trying to make a name for themselves. So I think it's just, full of loving people, people that are wanting the city to do nothing but go up. And like I said, they just, support me as much as they can. So it was a great experience. Some of my best friends that are going to be in my wedding one day. I obviously grew up with the Fairborn, so I got a lot of good memories back there.
And let's stick right there with Fairborn, because in high school, you were a 3-sport athlete, football, basketball, and track. And you were pretty good at basketball. Did you ever feel pressure to just focus on football?
Fortunately enough, I actually didn't. I think one thing that my coaches, in particular, I had two coaches. His name was Nathan Shivington. He was my basketball coach. And then I had a football coach and he was also my track coach. His name was Roy Toby. They actually preferred that athletes play multi-sports. And I know I've heard rumors about, some coaches at different programs really trying to get their guys to be one-sport athletes. But I think them doing such a great job, for one, at working with each other on allowing, kids like me to do football, basketball, and track, year round and not really have a conflicting schedule was really beneficial for me. And I think ultimately, playing 3 sports, although, I knew football is where I wanted to play in college. I had great experiences from basketball and track. Like, some of my best memories are from those sports. But even playing basketball and track, in my opinion, you develop skills that you might not even in particularly get if you just play football that can help you on the football field. And so, no, I actually didn't get much pressure just doing one sport. Like I said, my coaches were huge on staying active, doing multiple different things throughout the year. Not just football or basketball or whatever. So, yeah, so no, not at all. I had a great experience with my coaches.
And now if we fast forward to last season, you exploded onto the scene. You had 140 tackles, 6 interceptions, named an All-American, finalist for the Buck Buchanan Defensive Player of the Year award, all Pioneer League honors as well. Just how special was last season for you?
It was awesome. I think for me, it was a bit of a confidence booster. I know freshman year and sophomore year, I was getting playing time and I was getting some rotation time, but I had never officially earned a starting spot. I had some pretty good upperclassmen in front of me, and so it was almost kind of in a sense the fruits of my labor. And I by any means, I do not mean that I'm gonna sit back and relax now and I'm done, because I want to keep my nose down and keep working. But it was just kind of in a sense showing me that all my hard work has paid off, and ultimately you want to play at the highest level possible, no matter where you're at. And I think at times I was able to do that really well. But I also do understand that I got work to do. Even my defensive coordinator, one of the things he told me at the end of the season last year, and it's one of the favorite things he's ever told me, is right after the season he sat down with me. He had meetings with every guy, and he was kind of just talking to me, and he told me, he said, this is going to sound harsh, and you might think I'm a jerk for a second, but he said, I want you to really just look at your outlook on this season in terms of you have done nothing yet. Although, you have these accolades, the statistics and all of that, you have done nothing yet. And if you keep that mindset, it's going to take you even farther. And I know going into this coming year, I want to improve myself individually, but the biggest thing is, I want to get the guys together and just let's improve this team, and, hopefully win. And if we do play, we can, get some rings on our finger and some bling and win a championship. So, that's the mission and the goal now.
And Brandon, there was another headline moment for you last season, and it came against Drake. You had a 100-yard touchdown interception return. You had some good blocking to spring you along the way on the return, but I have to know, at what point did you just start thinking, legs don't fail me now, and it became huffing and puffing all the way to the end zone?
Yeah, I actually watched the video, and I think if you were to watch the video, I think it's pretty clear kind of where I almost hit a wall. I think it was about it was against Drake, and I think it was about Drake's 20-yard line, maybe 30-yard line is where I really started to almost get gassed out. And I had remember what had happened was we come down on kickoff. First off, our offense last year was electric, so I think I was on every special team. So I think every game I was at least on 8 kickoffs. And, kickoff is one quick play. But if you think about it, that's about 60 yards of a straight sprint. And when you do that 8 times, that adds up. And I remember we had just come off the field. We got thrown right back on. We had to kick off. And then Drake started to march down, and they were more up-tempo because we were running close to the end of the half. And so I was pretty gassed as it was. But yeah, like you said, I remember when I caught the ball. I know any DB's mindset when they catch it or get an interception is I want to score, because we get so frequent, or unfrequent times of touching the ball, obviously, because we're a DB. So that's our number one goal. But like you said, the blocking was unreal. But yeah, I think it was about the 30 to the 20 is kind of where I hit my wall, and I was just giving it everything I had to just get in the end zone.
And the Pioneer Football League is a non-scholarship program. It's a bunch of non-scholarship teams, but you beat a scholarship program from the Missouri Valley Conference, which is regarded as the best in FCS football, when you beat Indiana State last season. Can you talk about being a non-scholarship program and what it means to compete at such a high level?
Absolutely. I think what a lot of people, could take note about myself, my teammates, and anybody in our conference, especially at the Division I level that's non-scholarship, is for example, when you're a scholarship player, you obviously, you're playing football because you have the love of the game. You want to be on the field, you want to compete. But even if your love starts to fade, you also have, a full ride sitting there in front of you that is an incentive keeping you, within the program and all of that. And one thing, is one thing about like guys like us is we play football strictly for the love of the game. Like, we don't have a scholarship, like you just said, attaching us to the program or, trying to keep us on board. We play because we want to play. We're with our best friends. We want to compete. We want to win championships. So that alone, I think that speaks numbers about the guys that step on the field every day with me. And I think that rolls over into, like you just said, how we beat scholarship programs. And in terms of when we play with passion, and we just want it so bad. And I know anytime we get to play against an opponent like Indiana State last year, they were ranked 14th in the country at the time, we were licking our chops. I mean, this was, in our eyes, this was our time to, prove everybody that we're no slouch, we're no joke, we're Division I caliber football. And I think if you go back and watch any film, the reason why we traditionally beat these scholarship programs almost every single year is because we do the little things right. We understand sometimes we might be a little outmatched in terms of size or speed, but at the end of the day, if you're a technician and you know what you're doing, 30 pounds isn't going to matter. Another 0.2 on a 40 isn't going to matter, because you're gonna be in the right place at the right time. And I think, prime example, like I was kind of saying, was against Indiana State. We were just technicians. We made less mistakes than they did. We executed better than they did. We were kind of able to pull it out. So, yeah, I think being a non-scholarship player, there's a lot more weight to it in terms of, we are out there strictly because we just love the game of football. And so it definitely means a lot.
And let's stick there, because you were talking about the high caliber athletes on the team, and your teammate from last season, Adam Trautman, was selected by the New Orleans Saints in the 3rd round of the draft. Could you just take me through what those one-on-one battles were like in practice?
Absolutely. So that's one thing I'll never forget from my career is the one-on-one battles I had with Trout, because, it's not every day that you get to play with a guy who's drafted in the 3rd round. And I remember any chance and every chance I got to get a rep with him, whether it was in a 7-on-7, a 1-on-1, anything we were doing, I was trying to do it, sprints, anything. But I think the best gauge of one-on-ones and our track record was going into last spring ball. Me and him had tried to, well, at least I tried to, like I said, get as many one-on-ones with him as I could. And we were kind of tracking who won and who lost. And at the end of spring ball, we actually finished tied 3-3. And I remember that summer. So this past summer, we were joking about it, how we need to, get a winner and finish it out. But unfortunately, during the season, we don't, get a lot of live action against each other. We're trying to keep guys healthy and all that. So I don't think we ever really got to kind of hash it out. But yeah, it was a battle every time. And I knew that I had to come with it, or I was going to get whooped up on pretty good. So it was intense, but it was awesome.
And I want to ask you about the decision that was made to not have fall football in the Pioneer League upcoming this season. And just what was your reaction and the general reaction from the rest of your teammates at Dayton?
Yeah, so it was without a doubt heartbreaking, to say the least. I think one thing about our program that might have been a bit different at other programs within our league, or even, within other conferences, is our head coach and our AD, athletic director, had been very transparent with us, and they had been realistic with us. And in a time like this, that's all you can really ask for as a player. And they had told us, I think they called the shot about a week ago saying there was no season. And they had told us, honestly, probably about 3 weeks to 4 weeks prior to that, having a season, they're not counting it out. They're going to fight for it. But having a season, it's going to be tough. And there's a lot of variables that are up in the air. And, they weren't saying don't count anything out, but they were just saying that there's a huge possibility of not playing this fall. And so, that helped us prepare a little bit mentally, I think, kind of hearing the news. But even then, there's really no preparation you can get for hearing some news like that. And I really feel for my seniors. Our class, we stuck strong together, bought into the program. And some of the guys kind of, like we were just talking about how we're non-scholarship, some of the guys are putting some good financial binds as to what they're going to do next year and how they're going to figure out how to play. And so I feel for them. Hopefully we can all get it together and kind of come back or something. But yeah, it was heartbreaking. I know the whole team, you work so hard in the winter, the spring, the summer, just to kind of hear that news. It's never fun, but we'll get through it and we'll move on. There's always the next season. So that's what we got to prepare for now.
And now I guess just to build off of that, What does that plan look like, I guess, in a more concrete way, or has that not been determined yet within the program as far as, lifting sessions or organized team activities?
Yeah, so from my understanding, things are still up in the air a bit. I know some programs are already practicing. They're already getting their cleats in the turf and stuff like that. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that yet. We have we're actually tonight we have a Zoom meeting as well. We have frequent Zoom meetings, installing the playbook, keeping up as a team. As far as working out and weight room stuff, like I said, it's still up in the air, but I think we're kind of shooting for something along the lines of 3 to 4 days a week of practicing. And I believe it should start the 20th if it doesn't get pushed back. And then I think we're going to try and get in the weight room 3 times a week also as a team. But like I said, there's so many things that they're still trying to hash out. It's kind of hard to give you a definite answer, but that's pretty much what I was, just a rough estimate of kind of what I was told was going to happen.
Hey, trust me, I get it. This is an ever-changing set of circumstances, not only in football but in life. So no reason to not have the clear answer. But I want to ask you about getting into coaching, Brandon, because I saw somewhere that when you're done playing, that's actually what you want to do. You want to get into coaching. So now, do you think you'll be that laid-back type of coach, or are you going to be that intense guy out there going through drills?
I think, hopefully, I think this is what I want to shoot for, is to be a good mixture of both. I want to be intense. I want to be ready to go. I want to be bought in with my players. Hell, when I'm a coach, I'd even be willing to do the drills with them. Just kind of knowing me and knowing how I'm always wanting to be out there and be active and just play the game. I think when it comes down to the practices and all that, I'm going to be very, very intense and very in it, and for my guys. But I think there's times also when it's good for a coach to be laid back in a sense. I'm not necessarily saying, nonchalant and doesn't care or anything, but I think a big part of college football and the successful coaches out there is they build great relationships with their guys. And I know my position coach this year, he was actually new this past season. One thing that I think he's done a great job at is just build relationships. And in a sense, it was almost because he was not laid back, but we would have meetings away from football, if that makes sense. So like the other day, for example, we had a Zoom meeting and we didn't talk about football for even a second. And I don't think he'd mind. I don't think anybody would mind if I shared this, but it was just the DBs, and he had told us all that he wanted us to share with each other the biggest adversity or time of adversity in our life. And I remember after the meeting, our assistant corners coach, he had even kind of made the comment to all of us. He said, listen, guys, we haven't even talked football for this past hour, and I can promise you this was, in my opinion, the most beneficial meeting we've had yet, because we just got close. We all built a relationship. We all, kind of shared our struggles, came together as a group. But yeah, so when I'm a coach, I think hopefully I can have a good balance of both. But I think without a doubt, I'll be an intense guy and I'll be ready to go at all times because, at the end of the day, football is about competition. So you got to be ready to go at the snap of a finger.
And now I want to get into some, I guess, position-specific questions or, I guess, tendencies or favorites that you have. So the first thing that I'm going to lay out there for you is, are you someone that is a high hat, low hat guy or someone that reads the quarterback?
So honestly, that depends on the scenario and the situation. I can tell you right now, for example, if we're sitting in the red zone, and I'm sitting back at one high, I'm gonna get a quick run pass read, but my eyes are gonna be to the quarterback and I think this is one thing that I learned quick when I first stepped on campus that helped me at free safety in the red zone is quarterbacks don't have time to throw you off or look away. The plays if it's a pass play, it's got to be bang bang, because obviously the receiver's going to run out of room to run. So his first look is where I'm going. So I like to scan the quarterback then. But for the most part, whenever I'm one high or anytime we need to get a read from the backfield of the line, you got to get your run pass read first. You got to figure out the basics of what's going to happen. So high hat, low high, or high hat, low hat for sure. But then, like I said, there's other times when, and it also depends on the quarterback we're playing. There's some quarterbacks that do a great job at looking you off, at kind of giving you some window dressing. And then there's some quarterbacks that are very transparent and they like to just put it on a spot and they'll let you know where they're going. So it all just really depends. But I think without a doubt, first things first, you got to be high hat, low hat and figure out what's going on.
And now, do you have a favorite situation to be in, whether it's third and long, short yardage, a red zone scenario, or maybe even when they give you the green light to blitz?
Oh, man. So, I mean, for sure, without a doubt, blitzing is one of my favorite things to do. For one, because you can be deceptive and you can be tricky, and you can drop down and make it look like you're in some type of man and some type of three, and then all of a sudden you're coming off the edge and they never pick you up, and you get a free shot on a guy. But I think, in my opinion, one of my favorite scenarios also is red zone coverages. The reason being is because typically in the red zone you don't play a lot of man, or you don't play a lot of zone. You're going to be a more man-based defense, and that's pretty universal regardless of what your defense does. And I think if you keep man simple, it can't be beat. At the end of the day, you have this guy, and this guy can't beat you. And, I think one thing that's important for, any football player to try and do is to try and keep things simple. Because when you're thinking too much, you're trying to, go through too much in your head, you're not going to be able to react and make plays as fast as you should be. And so I think red zone, it limits what the offense can do. It cuts down their playbook to about a fourth of their playbook. And like I said, the schemes that we run and the defenses we run, they're more simple. And it's kind of just go fast, go hard, don't get beat by your guy, and just play football. So I think blitzing for sure. And then, red zone's always fun too.
And then the final safety-based question before we get into the off-field stuff, Brandon, and that is, do you have a deep safety preference, whether that's on the hash or the middle of the field?
I would probably have to say in the middle of the field. And the reason being is because when you're on the hash, so for one, as a deep safety, what we're always told is, your biggest responsibility is for one, nobody gets behind you, and you got to have depth. And I know a lot of times when we're one high, the corners, it will either be in a man and they'll be pressed up, or they'll be pretty tight, or we'll be in some type of cover three. But the corners a lot of times are relying on us for a safety blanket so they can play a little more aggressive. And so I think being in the middle of the field, it allows me to help out both corners better. When you're on the hash, it kind of it's not as symmetrical. You got to kind of really break down where the receivers are at and find those threats. And it can kind of almost put you out of position in a sense and uncover a corner here and there. So I think definitely in the middle of the field, and it just allows you to be all over the place. You're not more one-sided, so you can make a play anywhere at any time.
And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move into those non-football questions. And the first one I have here for you, Brandon, is, was there a hairstyle or fashion trend that you rocked and now you think back like, man, what was I doing?
Absolutely. So I remember I would have to say it was about fifth and sixth-ish, seventh grade maybe. I was, 4-sport, 3-sport athlete my whole life, but there was a summer or a few summers where I was very active with travel baseball and select baseball. And I'm sure any baseball player who, grew up when he was a young kid playing, he would know this initially if I said it, but the necklaces, the fightins, they were these necklaces that were supposed to help you with balance, they were health, all this good stuff. I think I used to wear probably about 5 of these things at a time, and I wish I could show a picture because the necklaces are thick. They're not like a chain, they're like this rope that's intertwined. And so I had just this big bundle on my neck, and I remember looking at pictures like I don't know what I was thinking. So that's for sure got to be the thing. I would at least tell myself to cut down to just one of them. You can wear them, but you can't wear all 5.
And now, Brandon, what's going to be your spirit animal and why?
Yeah, so this is something that I've always thought, and I feel like every time I tell somebody, they kind of laugh at it because it's not a very atypical animal. But it's got to be a honey badger, just like Tyree Matthew. And the reason being is because it's an undersized animal, and that's something I've always been told my whole life is, you might be a little too short, you this, that. And, growing up a little bit, I guess I don't hear that a ton anymore. But regardless, the thing is fearless. I mean, you can look up videos of this thing fighting lions, whatever. It doesn't back down from a fight. And I think that's, to a T who I am, especially on the football field, is I'm regardless of who it is, I'm never going to shy away from contact, never going to back down from, competition. If anything, I love competition. I love more contact. I love the physicality. So I think for sure it's got to be a honey badger.
And now, how much would someone have to pay you to eat the food that you like the least?
Oh, man. Well, here's the thing. I right off the bat, I know the food I like the least is sushi. What I mean by sushi is real sushi, like raw fish. Mm-hmm. Man, and somebody would have to pay me some pretty big bucks. I mean, at least a few $1,000s, because at least a few $100s to eat a full roll of sushi, because I've never been big on the concept of just eating raw fish. It doesn't make sense to me. And how I always compare it to people is it's no different, in my opinion, than you going, out to a lake and catching a fish, and right when you catch it, you just take a bite out of it. Like I'm not big on sushi, so it would have to be a good amount of money, I think, because it grosses me out, and I've tried to get it down before, and I just can't. I don't know what it is.
So no sushi for you. Got it. So,
no.
Brandon, do you have any superstitions, whether it be football or non-football related?
Yes, I do. I'm actually a very superstitious person, and honestly, sometimes it drives me crazy, especially game day. And I've tried to work away from it, because it would. So I would always have a schedule and a routine, and I would have my OCD and all of that would be through the roof, because I wanted everything to be perfect, and I was superstitious. You don't want anything different than what it was prior to. So I would always kind of stress myself out about, what I did pregame, or what I ate, or what I listened to, or how my locker was looking. But one thing is, my grandmother, she was Italian, and she was also Irish. And my mom, she passed away when I was about 3 years old. So I never got a real grasp on who she was. But my mom always told me she was extremely superstitious. And one of the things she would always, harp is to never put your shoes on any tabletop surface. And I remember sometimes I'd come home and I'd, set my shoes on a chair, or I'd set my shoes on even a counter or something, or new shoes, just to kind of show, and my mom would freak out. And so I think that's kind of ingrained in me. Never put your shoes on any surface that's other than the floor. But yeah, there's so many things that I do here and there that are superstition. It's all because of, my mom and my grandmother, just kind of the way they were.
And now we're going to finish it off here. And the question is, if you were invisible for a day, what would you do, Brandon?
This one's an easy one. If I were invisible, I would go, and I don't know where it's at. I would go to, I don't know, exactly where these places are at, but I would go to the most top secret places in the United States. So I would go to Area 51. I would go to the White House in the president's office. I would go to the deepest, darkest, secretive layers in the country. And I would figure out, the conspiracies and all those things that you hear. I would love to kind of be a fly on the wall and find out what's true, what's not, what I don't know, if there's things that are hidden. Without a doubt, I'm a big conspiracy geek. I like kind of watching videos and just kind of hearing about that stuff. It fascinates me. As outrageous as some of them are, it's just kind of something I've always been pretty attracted to. So yeah, without a doubt, I would go to the places that are on top lockdown with the most sensitive information, and I would go figure out what it is.
Man, that's awesome. That's amazing. That's not the answer I was expecting, but that's definitely a good one. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us now. For Brandon Easterling, I am Craig Forrestall. Until next time, stay safe and be easy. Hey everybody, Craig Forrestall. Thanks for tuning in and listening to another episode of That Sports Guys podcast.
Make sure to follow me on Twitter at @that_sports_guy to catch all the latest updates and podcast episodes. Until next time, stay safe and be easy.